Okay, so in chapter 1, we covered what economics is. So the study of human behavior in a world of scarcity. So in chapter 2, which we're going to dive into, it really builds on from that. So if you look at the beginning of chapter 2, it talks about budget constraints, a budget and constraint, words that we were probably familiar with today. So we have an X amount of dollars, and how do we want to spend it? Okay. And so in this, when it talks about budget constraint, you want to spend all your money, because if you don't spend all your money, you're not efficient. So, some of you might think, well, I want to save some of my money. But in these terms, we need to focus on spending our money to be efficient. So you want to spend all the dollars that you have budgeted for. And then, you kind of think, so what are the combinations of how we can spend that? So if you look into one of your book, it gives an example. So if you're looking at that diagram, it gives you an example that you have a $10 budget. And it gives you two options. There's burgers and buses. Burgers cost you $2. The bus costs you 50 cents. So what are all the combinations you can use or you can do to spend that $15? And I won't go through all of them, but I'll just give you an example. So with that $10, I could buy 4 burgers and I could buy 4 bus tickets. All right. So it's a trade-off, right? It's an opportunity cost. So there's a lot of terms in this chapter that I'm really going to try to focus on. Opportunity cost being one that you will hear all throughout economics. Marginal analysis we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about utility. We're going to talk about the law of diminishing marginal utility. And we're going to talk about sunk cost, one of my faves. So those are some good terms to know. So back to my burgers and buses. All right. So it is a trade-off, right? I can buy 4 burgers and 4 buses. Okay. Or I can do a variety or a mix of those. All right. So when I talk about opportunity cost, it's one thing I must give up to obtain something that he or she wants. All right. Or desires. So the opportunity cost of a burger is 4 bus tickets. All right. The opportunity cost of a bus ticket is 1/4 of a burger or 1/4 of a burger, hamburger. So if you're looking at that graph in the example they give you, the line there would be, the straight line there would be the opportunity cost, right? And so burgers and buses, kind of odd example, but that's what they do. So opportunity cost is very subjective because it is an individual choice. You know what you are giving up for something else. So everybody's opportunity costs look different, right? So for me, the opportunity cost of taking a nap would be like for me, what I value, okay? So it would be like going for a walk when the weather's really nice, or doing something, or reading a book, something I enjoy, or something maybe that I don't enjoy as much, but I should do is something productive in my house. Somebody else might be taking a nap, all right? So however you choose your time, if you choose something, you're giving up something else, all right? And so that is what opportunity cost looks like. The opportunity cost, you can think of it as you watching this video, right? But it seems if you're watching it that maybe you value your education, you value wanting to succeed in this class, and you're hoping that watching this video will help you, and I hope you do too, so thank you for being here. But that's just kind of some short examples of that. It talks about marginal analysis, all right? So examining the benefits and cost of choosing a little more or a little less of a good. Sorry, it cut me off, so I'm hoping I'm picking up where I think it cut me off. Anyway, so marginal analysis, a little more, a little less of a good. So do I spend the next minute snoozing, or do I get up and get going? So small choices, all right? So if you think of money-wise, you could think, bought 2 coffees today. Should I buy that third? Are the benefits worth the cost? And then think of other things. Would it make me jittery? Will it keep me up? But I really enjoy it. So all the things you have to kind of outweigh. So the word that we build into marginal analysis is utility, okay? And utility equals satisfaction or happiness, all right? So how much satisfaction do we get from that thing, whatever that looks like for you? And so we get so much satisfaction from buying a thing, doing a thing, sometimes eating a thing. So utility is very subjective because but it's real. And watching this video again is example is part of utility. All right, maybe you value the your education or just succeeding in this class and hoping that once again this video will help you do that. So it's all subjective for everybody, right? So it talks about the law of diminishing marginal utility as well. So as a person receives more of a good, the additional or marginal utility from that each additional unit will decline. All right. So a good example would be pizza. I love pizza, right? So especially if I'm really hungry, that first pizza is always the best, and I usually eat it too fast, right? So then I'm going to go for a second piece of pizza, and it's going to probably still be really good, but not quite as good as the first one because my belly's not quite as empty, right? And then typically for me, after that second one, I could probably still kind of go for a third one. And so when I eat that third one, it's not going to be quite as good because I'm more full, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the idea of the law of diminishing marginal utility. I kind of, equate it kind of the same as going for a run. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm feeling like going for a run. It feels good outside. I get out and the first mile feels really good. And then the longer I run, the less good it feels, right? So kind of the same thing. So you can kind of, relate it to whatever plays in your life, something similar. Then your book talks about a sunk cost, which is one of my favorites. So the costs that are incurred from in the past, all right, it cannot be recovered. And it should not affect your current decision. Okay. So example, let's say you go to the movies and you're watching a movie and you've paid $12 or $15. It's been a while since I've been to the movie, but I know it's not cheap. So let's say that you've paid $15 and you go and you have watched 30 minutes of it and it's terrible, and you just want to leave, but you're like, I just paid $15 for this movie, so I don't want to leave. But you've already paid it. You're not getting your money back. So then you think, do I sit here for the next hour and a half and continue to waste my time? Or do I leave and go do something productive or something that I would enjoy for the next hour and a half? I've already spent the $15. I'm not getting it back. It's a sunk cost. So that is the idea between a sunk cost. You could also, look at it as in you buy something to eat. Maybe you go and get a sandwich or whatever it may be, and you take a couple bites and you're like, this is nasty. And you're like, well, I just spent $10 on the sandwich, so I'm going to eat it, but you don't really enjoy it. You already spent the money. You're not getting your money back typically. So just throw it away and go do something else. Or, you can see it different ways, but that is a sunk cost. So in life, we have many choices, not just two examples, if you will. So this is kind of how it wraps up that particular thing. In life, we have lots of choices. And all of these scenarios I've given you, I'm giving you like two choices to simplify it. But it's just life is an extension of what we're discussing here, okay? We have lots of choices, right? Lots and lots of choices. But when you can apply it in the same manner, but your book definitely simplifies it. Obviously it has to, by giving you, little choices or two choices or, whatever it may be. All right. Your book talks about the production possibilities frontier. And from here on out, you'll just hear me refer to it as the PPF because it's much easier. And that's, usually how you'll hear it anyways. And so doing an overview I just want you to know what concepts are really important. Like I mentioned in the first video, chapter 1. And once again, I have put some more resources in your shell that dives deeper in different subjects. So make sure you check them out. If you need to, or if you haven't, I put lots in there. Don't be overwhelmed and feel like you have to watch every single thing, but kind of go through and see if there's something that you need some extra on. That is what that's there for, right? So in your book, it talks about there's definitely more similarities than differences between individual choices and societal choices, all right? So a way of visualizing kind of trade-offs on a societal level, you focus on those similarities, okay? It makes it a lot easier when we are talking about different, societal versus individual choices, all right? So on the PPF, there are different societal levels aren't always straight. So that's kind of what the PPF is, straightforward, if you will. This PPF will curve. And so in your book, it gives an example. So if you're looking at figure 2.3, in the PPF, they're always they're choosing two different things, all right? So this one's talking about healthcare and education in your book. So I'm just going to talk about that to make it easier for you. And so it's saying, you know, what you have all the money to spend on just healthcare and education. So what happens if we spend all of our money on one or the other? All right. So if we spent all of our money on education, so think we'd have great technology, we have be able to afford a tutor for every single thing, with, you know, whatever you could imagine to have the best education out there. That's what we'd have if we chose to spend all our money on education. All right. But then we'd have no healthcare, right? So that means no doctors, no medicines, you know, no band-aids, whatever that looks like, okay? So that's what that would look like. If we spent all of that money on healthcare, so top of the line hospitals, medicines, doctors, anything that you can think of, research that goes into all that, if we spend it all on healthcare, we'd have that, but then education would be non-existent. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not really realistic. So the point of the PPF, the slope of the curve, if we're talking about PPF, the slope of the curve is our opportunity cost or our trade-off, all right? And so what benefit do we get moving healthcare dollars to education, all right? What are we giving up to gain more in education? You know, maybe we're just giving up some money that we might spend on Band-Aids, but that might give us lots of money to go to education, all right? So that is kind of what the PPF is for, all right? And so comparing two things like that. And, you know, you can kind of, there's always, I don't know if y'all have heard that, you know, if you take a millionaire and you take someone that doesn't have very much money and you give each one of them $100, you know, obviously the millionaire, the $100 isn't going to mean much to them, but the $100 to the person that doesn't have much money could be life-changing, especially in that moment. And so when we look back at the PPF, it's curved because of the law of diminishing marginal utility, all right? Or marginal return, sorry. So as we get more of a thing, it gives us less and less benefits, okay? All right? So you can kind of look at us, you know, as you get the more pizza, it's giving less benefits to us. We're not as hungry, or it's not giving us as much satisfaction, all right? So when we're looking at the PPF, let's think about what shifts it outward, all right? So additional resources shift the PPF outward. Additional technology, so think, and I'll give you an example of when the computer chip came about. That really shifted the PPF outward because we could do so much more with our time. We became more efficient when we got that part of technology, all right? So if I'm anywhere on the PPF curve, I'm using my resources efficiently and effectively. There's no wasted money if I'm on the curve of the PPF, all right? So that is what we call productive efficiency. So in your book, it talks about productive efficiency and allocative efficiency, all right? And so allocative efficiency is more of just a particular combo of goods and services on that is on the PPF of the curve that a society produces. It really represents that combination, and it's what the society most desires, all right? So the allocative efficiency gives us the most value. And kind of in the next chapter, we will really look at how we equate that idea to an equilibrium, right? So finding that market happy place, all right? Outside of, well, actually, I think I'm going to stop here in a nugget. I have like a timer that kind of set so I don't like I kind of want to keep my videos at certain times so y'all can, you know, watch some in nuggets. So I'm going to stop here. Chapter 2 is a little bit longer, so I'll call this chapter 2 part 1, and I am going to also make a part 2. So I will be seeing and chatting with you soon.